Okay, that's good. Now click on the bonus area detection box and drag this bonus area detection box script into the inspector. And the other thing that we need to do inside of the general scripts, remember the bonus area, sorry, I need to just double check something here. I think I needed to add something else in. Oh, sorry, this part private here, we don't want this to be private because we're going to assign this inside the editor. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to save that, delete private, click save, go back into Unity, and if you look here on the bottom, in a moment, there we go. So the main script is now a public variable, and what that means is that we can just drag the script in inside of the editor. We don't have to try and find it in code or write a command to find the script. We can just drag it in. Now I know that the main game script is inside the general scripts game object. There you can see it, main game. Now we don't need to drag the main game into the bonus box area. We can just go to the bonus box area, drag the general scripts over, and it will find it automatically. So for example, if you've got the game object and inside that game object is the main game script, we don't have to pick out the main game script and drag it over. Once we drag over the game object, it will look inside of that game object to find the script. So that's a really useful little feature inside of Unity. Okay, so what we want to do now is I just want to check that this is working, and I think that was the next step. Add the script to the ball, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So if you look at this score here, count up, as it goes through here, we should get an extra 50 points. It's going to do it. I've actually got to try and make the ball fall through here now. 50, nearly. No. I might have to just move this in a second if it doesn't go through fast enough. But what we're gonna do anyway, guys, is we're gonna do something visual to show that the player got an extra 50 points when they went through this this bonus area. So in fact, I'm just going to go to the bonus area object, click on W, just move it over right on top of the ball, so it's going to go through there when it starts. Score. Oh, I couldn't even do it then. Don't worry guys, we'll get there, I'm sorry. I should find an easier way to test this. Oh, I still didn't do it. I'll just try and move it up here. I think the ball actually bounces in this top right area here, so it should detect it. It should go through there. Oh, sorry. That was the thing. I know what I've done wrong. If you click on bonus area detection box, this is a good point. If you ever see something, if you ever have objects interacting together but you didn't want them to, turn on is trigger inside the box collider. What that will do is it means that it will just call the program function, the onTrigger enter, but it won't react to any physics in the real world, in the game world. So it makes it almost like just like air. But when you do pass through it, it will trigger some code inside of the game. So to turn on is trigger, click play. There we go, and it went through and it clocked up a lot higher score, so that's working fine. So just clicking back here, I'll just drag this back over, making sure it's in the 0 on the Z-plane. So the next thing we want to do is want to create something visual for the player so that when the ball does go through this bonus area, it doesn't just clock up the score, but they also get some kind of visual representation to say, hey, great, you got extra 50 points or whatever. So we're going to do that now, and the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to reuse this particle sparks objects that we created here, I think roughly 2 lessons ago, and we're going to make this into a different one. So I'm just going to drag it down into here, into this hierarchy area. I'm going to click on enter, backspace, and I'm going to call this particles squares. And with it selected, click W. I'm just going to move this into a different area down the bottom. I'm just going to check I'm not getting ahead of myself again. Okay, so the other point I just wanted to make, I think last time you guys had these walls and this ceiling as blue. I've changed that to white just because I want to, I want it to look a little bit more retro-ish, and white is more retro. But the other thing is that we're going to use this white texture here at the bottom. We're going to use this for as part of the particles. So if it's a completely white texture, then we can apply different colors to it. But if it's a blue texture, we can apply different colors, but it will be blue plus the other colors that we apply. So having a white texture means that we can customize that to be any color that we want, and it's a little bit easier to work with. You guys can add in different textures here if you like, or use a separate one, but I'm just using this to illustrate quite easily how we can use a single texture to build the entire game. So the way to do that is I just click on the white square, open this up. I already changed this, just in Photoshop. I just click on G, make sure that I've got the a white palette, white color selected. Left click to make it white, File, and then Save. And then if you go back into Unity, it will reload and just input the Photoshop file without needing to sort of save it as a PNG or a TGA file or anything like that. Okay. So the other thing that we want to do, and inside of the white square materials here, if you select this, last time I think what I did is we had this as mobile diffuse. We want to change this now to go to mobile particles and then alpha blend. And what that does is it means that now this texture, this material, it allows us to access the alpha channel, which is the transparency channel. And I'm going to show you why in a moment when we're building this particle effects with squares when it goes to the bonus area. So, but just make sure you've got particles, alpha blended selected. So particles, squares, and right now this is exactly the same because we've just copied it. So what I want to do is I want to scroll down on the right hand side with the particle square selected. Left click on white square, drag it down into there. Okay. And the other thing is at the bottom here on particle renderer, I want to click on stretch particles and just make this a billboard. I don't want this to be a stretched particle like we had before. So as you might be able to see here right now, what these squares are doing is they're fading in and then fading out. So it's going from transparent quickly up to opaque and then back down to transparent. That's why we changed the material to a mobile alpha blended material. If we kept it as diffuse, we wouldn't see that fade up and then fade down. It would just appear, blink, and then disappear, blink, like really fast. Because there's no alpha channel in the diffuse material. We need to give it a material that has that transparency channel so that we can change it over time using this particle animator section here. Okay, so I'm just going to change this around a little bit. I'm going to reduce this down to 20. I don't think we need 50 particles emitting at one time. I'm going to make the max size 0.3, and I'm going to, yeah, that's okay. I think keep the minimum size at 0.1. Now let me see, what did I change last time? So, because I actually did this before and I'm just trying to repeat what I did before. So I think what I'll do is I'll make this into the rainbow sort of effect, so rainbow color, something like that. Green, I think blue here maybe. And then I think I want to end this on a purple, perhaps. We'll see how that looks. This is very rainbowish. Let me move this over here. That might be okay. But you guys definitely have a play around with this. This is just me tweaking, and it's subjective. And you guys can, like we've played around with this in the 2 lessons before. It's great fun to mess around with particle effects. So have a good play and whatever works best for you. I'm just going to turn up the alpha here as well on the 2nd and 4th part of the particle animator, and that just allows it to sort of go from transparent to opaque faster. Okay, it doesn't have this slow curve because I want these colors to kind of be bright and vibrant. So it comes up from opaque to from transparent to opaque very fast, and then it comes down from opaque to transparent very fast at the end. And I think what I want to do as well is I just want to have I want to bring this down actually. So I'm going to click on force in the Y direction, -10. And that sort of gives it that sort of real world like firework physics effect. So it's going to go up, down, and then come down over time. So I think that makes it look a little bit better. So if I move it up here, And I think the other thing that we want to do is just make it a little bit longer, because right now the min energy, the time is quite low. So I'm going to go minimum time or minimum energy to 1. And I'm going to make this max energy to 1.2, say. That's cool. And that's pretty visual and obvious. Now, have a play as well, because we don't want these effects to cover the ball or obscure the ball in any way. So that's important. Okay. Particle squares. I'm just going to click Enter on particle squares, Command and copy, or Control. Command and C or Control and C. Particles. I'm going to right-click, create prefab. Now remember we did last time is the reason that we're doing a prefab is that we want to, each time that the ball comes through the bonus area, we want it to spark. We want to create some sparks every single time. Okay, so that's what the prefab is for in this project area. Is every time it says create a spark, it's going to pull the spark from this one and bring it into the game world whilst the game is actually running. So that's why we build prefabs. Okay, so I'm going to just click Command and V or Control and V. Particle spot. Now this is an empty prefab right now because it's grey. So we want to get the particle squares and just left click and drag it up there to make it to a blue one, which means it's now a prefab that has some information inside of it. If I click play, just want to see those particles explode, which is exactly what we got. All I'm just checking here is that these particle squares get destroyed. It means they disappear from the scene. Particle squares. Yeah, they disappeared. The reason I just double checked that they disappeared is because we don't want, if every time we make a particle, every time it hits the wall, every time we get a bone, when it goes through the bonus area, when we make those square particles, we want it to disappear. We want it to be destroyed, because if we've got hundreds and hundreds of particles just clogging up the memory, eventually the game will slow down and just crash. So we want to make sure that we're cleaning things up in the scene and keeping it as minimal as possible. And which is what this auto-destruct does here. So if I find that just to show you guys quickly, this one here, the auto-destruct inside of the particle squares.